Hey everyone, it's Kai from WCC, and we're back again today. We're talking about Zarzan again, now that we know its real English name. Not Zazan, it's Zarzan. But there's been probably some misconceptions, some rage, some happiness from yesterday's reveal that Zarzan got hit to 1. So today I'm just gonna talk a bit about Zarzan in general, where the premium format is heading, and what's the haps, right? What's the haps in premium? So what happened yesterday? Let's start off with that. So Zarzan got hit to 1. And, I mean, we're either happy or sad. Now, there's some misconceptions about the reasoning behind why Zarzan was hit to 1. So, let's just read the Bushiroad reasoning first. Let's pull it up here and see what they said. So, Bushiroad did release an English document as well. They released 2 documents. They released a Japanese one, like always, but this time they released a translated English one. And the English reasoning is pretty much like translated from the Japan one, but it went like this, alright? When used in combination with certain cards, Rain Elemental Zarzan makes it possible to sometimes perform an extremely high number of 10 or more attacks as early as the first turn when going second. As this usage of Rain Elemental Zarzan was not intended during development, and we have determined that it has an extremely unhealthy impact on the tournament environment, we have limited the number that can be used to 1. So, overall, if you read that at face value, you'll be going, wow, so that TikTok video that Harpin and I think what was Toyo? Yeah, that's right, Toyo made. That was the only reason that they limited Zarzan to 1. And I think you'd be reading a bit too much into it. So the original Japanese text that I asked Ken to translate, it was ambiguous enough. It wasn't, you can't, when you read that, you can't say that this was the only reason. This was definitely a reason why they banned it, but it's definitely not, you can't just conclude that it was the only reason. Now, if I was to explain why Zarzan is broken to just a normal person, maybe even a normal standard person who doesn't really play premium at all, I could go into the numbers, I could go into the statistics, I could talk about the effect, and then probably just go, okay, that's pretty cool, and not really understand it. Now, a really easy way to tell anyone who doesn't know anything about premium on why this card got hit is just to say, dude, if you go second, you can possibly do 10 attacks a turn. And they'd go, wow, that is really ridiculous. That sounds very, very hit-worthy. So I can totally understand that now. So that example that they provided is a very easy way for them to at least communicate to normal people or non-premium players on why this card got hit. So I wouldn't read too much into it. I just say, yes, they clearly showed a problem, but you know, if this document and reasoning isn't just for players, well, not just for premium players, it's for nearly everyone who plays the game to show that, yes, there is a very, very good reason why we hit the card. It's not like, oh, we just thought it was broken. Here is the reason why it's broken. Here's a reason why it's broken. And by hitting it to 1, they also kind of nerf everything else regarding for Zarzan. So, another thing I talked about with the boys in my team about Zarzan was, what do we actually need to hit to make Zarzan better, right? Because we can have a list of things we want to hit. We can have there's a lot of things that everyone wants hit, right? We want Zarzan hit, we want Huang hit, we want Gastille hit, sure. Maybe we want the Superior Ride hit, we want the Byragan and Morak, we want Cyclone hit as well, we think it's too free. There's a lot of things we could hit, but we don't want to go to Bushiroad and go, dude, you got a product releasing in a couple of months. Guess what? You should just ban all the good stuff from it. Well, not the good stuff, right? You should just ban a bunch of cards from it, and your format will be Gucci. So that's never gonna happen. That is never gonna happen. They won't be able to sell product that way, right? So we're deciding on what was the tiers on how we want to hit, and Zarzan always came out on top, and we kind of discussed how hard do we need to hit it, and the idea of Zarzan to 1 came up in some conversations as the minimum, the most minimum they need to do to it. But you know, 1 Zarzan still has its own issues, like high rolling, you drawing it into your opening hand. But you know, hitting it in some way will definitely limit the amount of acceleration that premium decks can get off. So hitting it to 1, although was not the best, outcome, it is still a decent outcome. So that's pretty much all of like our ideas regarding why they hit the restriction. They still need to release it in English, and they still need to sell product. Now, the impact on the meta with Zarzan going to 1 is actually pretty interesting, because there is a lot of ways you can look at a Zarzan deck, and you saw a lot of videos where people were making some insane combos of, yeah, sure, there was a 10 attack TikTok combo. There was like the Bermuda Triangle that Rio posted where like Riviere skipped up a lot. And there's also like Spike Brothers. You probably would have seen like a Pale Moon abuse as well, like Songster loops. You would have saw like Ripples abusing Zarzan, and those are really cool. You know, it's really cool just like watching combos happen like in Yu-Gi-Oh! But the reality is that you could go fancy with Zarzan, or you could just go like pure not fancy and just win games. And that just makes better sense. I think, and through testing, I felt the best decks of Zarzan was just straight up beatdown, vanilla beatdown, and that's it. You don't have to worry about drawing good cards. You just have to draw cards, and then you have to draw some Zarzans, and you have to flip up some Cyclones. You just automatically win like that. And if you do draw the Zarzan early, then suddenly your acceleration is through the roof, and then you just they just don't have the hand to guard all your attacks, especially if they're a combo deck. They still need pieces to actually do things. So you could just play a beatdown deck, bash your opponent's face with just high-powered columns, and then what? If he does just magically draw or if he still has the combo pieces in his hand and has all the combos and done all that, then sure, he could win. He just combos you and you lose. But half the time he doesn't, or more than half the time he doesn't, and the other half time you just have so many attacks and they're so big that you just win anyway. So although combo decks are good, Zarzan beatdown decks were definitely one of the most lamest, but also one of the most strongest decks you could play, and it just wasn't really hard at all. It was literally just pack in a bunch of vanillas, put in some superior ride engines, put in like a Bobo or Huang, you know, put in some Zarzan. It was pretty much the deck that I used to beat Solemn with, except without the Sternblow Kruger. So if you didn't realize that, that deck was a joke. The Sternblow Kruger deck was a joke. But yeah, no, it's pretty much something like that, and then you can just win random games, right? So now that you only have one Zarzan, that deck suddenly becomes slower. Like, sure, it still works. It still works. You still have Superior Ride, you still have Tempest Spheres and all that, but you have less Zarzan. And sure, if you draw into that Zarzan, you're gonna have a good game, but that doesn't make that deck consistent. It makes it less consistent now that there's only one Zarzan. So it'll be interesting to see how far that falls from the top. It's still a viable deck. I still think it's definitely a viable deck, but how strong it is, we'll have to see. And sure, you know, combo decks also kind of got nerfed, but also buffed in a way. So like, you have less Zarzan, so you have less ways to really pop off really early. But sure, it's, you know, the most oppressive deck in the format, the lamest deck in the format, also got hit too. So yeah, so combo decks kind of gotten buffed, and then the rest of the format, sure, it's up in the air. I think there's some misconceptions as to what Zarzan actually provided. So Zarzan itself is not a win condition. It's not a win condition like Gastille, you know? But Zarzan is just a really, really god tier support card that accelerated the game. It was just that good, you know? It's like having Faker as your support, but you have 4 Fakers, and it kind of does so much for you. Now, since it was a support, most decks are built around having like just a strong base engine with Zarzan as like the extra vanilla on top, and it'll be like this giant vanilla, okay? He himself is on a vanilla, but he makes giant vanillas, right? So you'd have like a Baringan Superior Ride vanilla deck, and the Zarzan is there to just make the whole deck even faster. So now that Zarzan is limited to 1, the consistency is, again, is like kind of down. So it's similar to what I talked about before. Now, a lot of people are saying, you know, you can tutor for Zazan. Now, tutoring in Vanguard usually requires at least 1 CB cost, and that means you can be denied. So if you're actually tutoring for a support card, then you can kind of see that the game has slowed down to some extent, where, you know, you're not just popping off for free unless you do manage to just draw the 1 copy, right? So in a way, most games you play, you will just not have that you're just not open with Pot of Greed. Let's put it like that. So I think tutoring for a support card is legit. And if you want to build a deck around, you know, abusing Zazan, I think that's legit, but that's usually slow enough that you can kind of, or slow enough where you can kind of deal with it rather than dying on 2. Some people also said that, we shouldn't have hit Zarzan to 1. It's better at 4. Now, all decks can run Zarzan at 4, and then we all have an equal chance to draw Zarzan. Now, that is totally wrong, because in every single format, even a Zarzan format, there is definitely a best deck, and it'll be something like OTT. It's something like Murakumo, right? These, let's say these beatdown decks, right? These will definitely be like the best deck. You won't be able to play something like Luard Zarzan without suffering like a hit to your win rate. So, although, yeah, sure, you have an equal chance to draw Zarzan, it's not like every deck suddenly becomes viable. Now you have even more decks being viable, because your Zarzan beatdown decks are slower, your Zarzan combo decks are probably slower too, and then you have a whole slew of decks that you haven't really, we can try and test and see what can combat this slightly slower metagame, right? Slightly slower metagame. And that's just straight up just better than every deck playing the same beatdown style where, 30 cards, 34 cards of the deck are the same. And then the rest of it is just another flavor, like a different clan's vanilla cards, yeah? So I think there is now just way more variety, actually just way more variety in the game. And you actually have to see if the vanilla engine that you're applying to your deck is actually enough or good enough compared to just a straight up normal deck. Now, Huang, right? I know people have said stuff about Huang, and it should have definitely gotten hit too. So Huang is definitely a problematic card, something that stops one of the biggest ways to play around things in premium and forces your Vanguard to attack their Vanguard. Is not cool. It's not cool. But in a way, there are more ways to play around a Huang than there is to play around a Zarzan. Like you could build your deck around a Huang. You could play lower power counts. You could play restraint cards. Crazy. Or you could just kind of play a deck that ignores what your opponent does, right? While Zarzan, there is no counterplay. Like, they could just not draw it. You could shuffle their deck better, but, it's if they got it, they got it. So, although Huang is a crazy card, it's not the same level as Zarzan, and if we were talking about tiers of banning, it'll be on a level below Zarzan, and sure, they could probably hit it in the future, but, we gotta show that these cards are actually broken. We have to show that one Zarzan is still too strong. We have to show that Huang is bad for the metagame. We got a year to show that off. And, next year we got, hopefully, at Springfest. It's a great place to show off some really degenerate decks before the real serious stuff starts back in BCS next year, which hopefully will happen. Prayers, right? What will the meta now become? So, in my opinion, right now, any of the top Zarzan decks in the current, or in the previous format, the 4 Zarzan meta, I think will still be fine. They will be slower. Have to test to see if one Zarzan is still good enough. But, things like OTT, definitely fine. I think Murakumo, yeah, definitely fine. These 2 decks, pretty good. Combo decks will still be fine too, and they'll have more space to work their combo. And in my opinion, yeah, if they want to make a combo around abusing a Zarzan, just that one Zarzan with like tutoring it into soul and all that, I think that's fine. I think that's actually fine. Hopefully we'll have ways to play around their combo. If you want to be forced to run more disruption, sure, it's at least better than, the beat style where they're just Zazan, draw another Zazan, GG, you might as well scoop it up, right? And then there will be a new category of decks. There will be, you have to see if your deck is worth it to run vanilla. Because before, the vanilla engine was just absolutely superior in every way because you had a consistent Zarzan. Now, you have to think, we don't have a consistent Zarzan. Is my vanilla build, my vanilla core, good enough to compete with like an effect core? And I think it's gonna be a bit weird, right? Before, like, I think I listened to Solomon, he said, Luard, for example, like, vanilla Luard is just better than a non-vanilla Luard. But now we have to think, is a vanilla Luard deck better than an effect Shadow Paladin deck overall? We'll have to see. So I think there is definitely more room for the meta to build these non-Zazan decks, but the old stuff, the 4 Zarzan stuff will still be legit, and I think if you did invest in 4 Zarzan, if you're like a Japanese player, then it should be fine. And overall, it's just gonna be much more free for everyone. I think everyone would just be overall like more happier. Usually you don't really, like, even in casuals, right? There is not like this, well, currently there is not a super overpowering deck that just is cleanly gonna sweep the entire format yet. But even so, if it's like a combo deck, do you really even play combo decks with your friend like during friendlies, right? I don't think many people do, because they like having friends. So so overall, I think the casual side of Premium is very, very good at the moment. Going to the tournament side of Premium, that's gonna be something that we'll have to see and test. But I think it's definitely a better state than it was before. Now, again, we like I said before, you know, 4 Zarzan was bad. We were thinking 1 Zarzan might have been good enough, but we wanted to make sure that, you know, you never high rolled out of a Zarzan. Well, high rolled into a Zarzan, I mean. But with a 1 Zarzan build, if they even do get that 1 Zarzan up, right, they get a nice power boost, but it's not so devastating. Like, sure, your opponent's columns have like a plus 10k when they commit 2 cards on that column, but it's not a plus 20k. A plus 20k is absolutely ridiculous, and you just have literally no way to play around a plus 20k. At plus 10k, you might have some luck in just getting a defensive and being able to do some guards, but after you get a 20k with 2 Cyclone, then it's like, you might as well just GG, right? So, 1 Cyclone is still semi-manageable, I think, but, you know, when you get into like 2 Zarzans, when Zarzan goes into a Zarzan, then yeah, then it becomes super problematic. So, overall, with my final thoughts on the metagame, I think Premium is in a pretty good place. If you're a new player that has never played Premium, Premium Collection is now a very, very legit time to get into Premium. Even things like the product itself, right? We saw the cartons, we saw the cases. There was like only like 11 Zarzans in a carton, and that's like there's like 16 boxes, so there's less than 1 Zarzan a box, and people needed 4 of that. So before, those Zarzans were like 30 bucks each, right? That's absolutely ridiculous. But now you only need 1. So that price is definitely going to drop a lot, and maybe not all decks are going to run it. So overall, I think, yeah, the meta itself, Premium meta, is pretty good. A lot of decks are standard based anyway. Like if you're running G stuff, or pre-V, I guess, is a better way to put it. You have to have a very, very good reason why you're running that stuff. Like, the effect has to be bonkers. But a lot of other stuff are very standard-based, and the strides themselves are very standard-based too. So yeah, any standard player can definitely just pop into Premium Collection, get some of those strides. Should be, like, Premium Collection overall is pretty cheap. And then, you know, start playing Premium, and it'll be like a nice little add-on or a nice flavor change for anyone who just started off in standard. And the old Premium players are like, it should be fine. Like, you guys are good enough now to play around things. It's been so many years, so so, you know, get your brains racking, and I'm sure you'll find Premium to be a better place now too. And going forward into the future, if they do have some reboot or anything like that, just get ahead of the curve. Start Premium now, and just like, even if it's not for you, getting a few strides doesn't cost much and adds so much complexity to the game itself. So that's pretty much my thoughts with just Zarzan overall. We've had a couple of great months testing Zarzan and how broken it is. I mean, I definitely didn't. I thought the format was pretty janky with Zarzan, but with 1 Zarzan, I think a lot of people are now more reinvigorated to go into and play the format again. So hopefully you guys are also gonna get into Premium. Don't be discouraged, and it'll definitely be easier to get into now. And look, if you had a strong deck, you tested 4 Zarzan, and you had a strong deck in mind, it's still going to be strong. And if you quit because of Zarzan, well, there's only 1 Zarzan now, and I think a lot of things are going to be relevant again. So just pop back in and play some Premium. So that's pretty much it. I think it's been a bit of a longer video, but hopefully it quelled your dissatisfaction, I guess. So thanks for listening to me, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye.